For the video, I'm thinking about content recently, thinking about what I want to talk about. My main kind of thing, main aspect I want to build my brand over, I feel like, is the idea that the life can be explored so much more fully if you are willing to take the trade offs, if you're willing to prioritize what is actually essential instead of pursuing everything at the same time. I think in this day and age, in our society, we have really, really gone on the deep end when it comes to optimizing, when it comes to squeezing out the best out of everything. And that makes us really focused on, yes, just not letting any value slip. We kind of really want to make the best. We all want to become the millionaires. We all want to become do everything at the same time. We're going to make the $1 million. We're going to have the family. We're going to have the perfect health. We're going to have the perfect body. And we're going to do everything at the same time. But I've found from my experience, reality doesn't act like that. Reality doesn't really appreciate you trying to force it into you doing everything. I think when practice happens, is that life's all about trade offs. And what I want to talk about specifically the trade off I had to take, in order to be here in Pisa in Italy, traveling the world, living like a digital nomad instead of being cooped up back in my hometown Latvia, which is actually great. Latvia is a beautiful country, but I knew that a really big essential thing I want to do with my life is travel, see the world, and explore. And here's the kind of framework I used to live in, and the framework I live in now. What I used to think is that I wanted to have everything. So I want to be one of those hustle guys that hustles his way through all, my career, makes a ton of money. Then once I'm completely filthy rich, I will have all the freedom I want, and I can do whatever I want. And I'll be able to travel the world, buy whatever I want, do whatever I want. But what happened is that I soon kind of realized that as my business was starting to grow, as my priorities started to pile up, as the things I needed to do also went up with my income. What then made me realize that the guys who are earning a lot of money, they're working a lot of fucking hours as well. So you gotta look at this from that perspective. You gotta realize, fuck, those guys at the top, they're still working their asses off. So what was my goal then? Was it to earn as much as I can? If the goal is to earn as much money as I can, that will probably lead me to prioritize or to optimize for that. And that will mean that I will have to actually work my whole life. So there was this tension between the two concepts, right? I wanted to be free and explore the world. At the same time, I wanted to make a lot of money. At the same time, I wanted to also have kids relatively early and have a family relatively early. And this is all conflicting. It's just all of these wants are fighting each other because you only have so much time. So then I read the book. It's called Essentialism by Greg McVaughn or something. He has a bit of a weird surname, but if you look up Essentialism, you'll find it. Really great book in a way. It has a really core concept that doing few things to the best is better than doing a lot of things half-assed. So few good things rather than more subpar things, and then maybe really kind of reevaluate my life. And the goal was at the end to live fully. And when I sat down and I realized I kind of mapped everything out, and I realized this conflict that happening, right? I was working 12, 14-hour days, realized that my income is rising, sure, but at the same time, I'm, just grinding my life away. And what's the goal? After 5 years, once I've successfully grind out in my 20s, I will want to be a father and want to be a kid. I want to be present for my kids too. And if I've set up a business that will make me completely, dependent on working 12 hours, maybe less, maybe 8 hours, but still is dependent on me, it's not going to fly, is it? Same with traveling. If the business is completely, booked from 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., traveling is also going to get really, really hard, really difficult. So then it really dawned on me that I really should be thinking about making my business work for me rather than, building a business that I'm working for. It really depends on the person, I believe. I think there's some definite passions, or some people can get really, really passionate about certain things, certain goals, certain causes that is kind of drives them to work more. That's not correlated with these shallow results like money or status. But if they are correlated with money status, that I think a lot of my peers are, and I was before as well, it's kind of a fool's errand. It's not really optimizing for anything. Money is not going to actually get me anything, and money is a tool for agency. So then, after realizing this, I kind of looked back in my business, looked back at my life, and then I realized that, hey, if I want to travel, it's going to be way harder when I have kids. If I want to have kids before 30, I'm 36 now. I'm going to be 26 tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow's my birthday. I'm going to be 26, and I have like 4 years until I'm 30. If I want to have kids before then, it's going to be harder to travel with kids. So the best time to travel is right now. Okay, then let's work back the problem. If I want to travel right now, how can I make that happen? First, what the exercise gave me was a clarity on the essentials. Before, when I was imagining traveling, I was imagining being filthy rich, right? Like earning 5, 10K a month, maybe having like crazy amounts of saved up. So I was imagining traveling like this, exploring the world completely without any bother, without thinking about work, just traveling from one country to another country, hotel to hotel, fancy place to fancy place, eating out all the time. But then I kind of looked back and say, okay, if my goal is to travel, is it really just to, live life like that? Let's be realistic. Am I really going to be happy if I'm not working at all? If I'm not, pursuing anything purposeful, if I'm just traveling from world to world and just living from hotel room to hotel room, that kind of made me think that, hey, maybe that's not the goal. What's more important, just to see different cultures, see different, nature, see different architectures, see different wonders of the world, and kind of soak in the experiments, soak in the lessons from these cultures. I kind of found that to be way more something that I'm looking for. So if that's now the priority, I could essentially start like writing off the things that I don't really care about that much, which is like living in fancy hotel rooms. I don't care about that much, as long as it has a roof and it's pretty decent looking. It's a good place to live. Okay, then what about like eating in fancy restaurants? Is that like a priority? I guess not for me. I can splurge a bit once in a week, but I'm not really into that. Then when you start like dialing back these things, you end up with something that's like the baseline of what you need to accomplish. In my case, it was just, hey, start looking at Airbnbs in different countries. Start realizing that some countries are more expensive than others. Some countries are cheaper than others. Next month we're going to be going to Georgia. Georgia is really cheap compared to the Western standards. That destination directly arrived from this realization that there's countries where the dollar can go farther than others. Then it's a case of me evaluating, hey, am I okay just like living in a single place for a couple of months instead of a couple of weeks? Obviously, it's even better, I would suppose, because you have the time to kind of keep working and not get too distracted by traveling. Am I okay with eating in instead of eating out all the time? Fuck yeah, I am. It's fine. I have a beautiful girlfriend that helps me every day, so she can cook my food. That's fine. She has delicious food, and I'm enjoying life as I am staying home and working as well. Mm. And yeah, it kind of dawned on me that you really don't need that much to already start building the life you want. You just have to be really conscious of the trade-offs. It's not really taking sacrifices in the sense that I'm living a worse life. It's a case of me acknowledging the fact that you know there's really only the few variables that are truly going to drive home the experience. Like, let's say if I travel the world, if I visit 20 countries and speak to 20 locals about their lifestyle, and I learn from them and I eat their cuisine, and I think, do you think it does matter if I'm living that off a fancy hotel room, or if I'm doing that in a span of few months, or if I'm doing that in a span of years, and actually staying long enough in each of these places to fully like assimilate a bit? I think the experience, the end goal, the result, the outcome will be the essential outcome will be derived from me just being here, just doing the thing, instead of making sure that I do it in maximum comfort. I would even argue that in the timeline where I keep working my ass off and those 12-hour weeks and become really successful and really start earning money before I started traveling, I think a lot of that traveling is going to be distracted by the fact that we'll have to be working all the time. If you look at the really successful people that are working all the time, it's a fool's errand to assume that somehow money is going to make you more free. It's not really. The more you earn, the more responsibility you have. You have to be acknowledged of that. And I think in my career, eventually, I'm going to get there as well. I don't think that after this period of life, after this season of life, there's going to be different seasons, and one of them, definitely, I'm going to be striving for more and more like success. I guess it's going to be more purposeful. I'm going to be probably have a specific cause that I will be passionate about, and that's like a side product of that will be to build a business that impacts as many people as it possibly can. And if it's a business that impacts as many people as possible can, it's going to have scale. If it's going to get the scale, it's going to require work. And once I'm at that scale, it's really reasonable for me to assume that I'm going to be able to leisurely travel around. Not very, very unlikely. So yeah, by doing this exercise, by kind of realizing what's essential, by kind of putting things into place and not wanting everything at the same time, I came to this beautiful position where I'm now at a completely different country, still working online, still doing the thing I want, still working on my business, still like, producing stuff, still exploring. And yeah, not still exploring at the same time, exploring the boundaries of what my mind is available, and all that has been a direct correlation with the fact that I was willing to say no to a lot of fancy stuff when it comes to traveling, when I was willing to book flights that took me, three different planes to get into place. Like our flight from Pisa to Georgia, it's like three different planes, like two layovers. And it's gonna be a big 22-hour like transit. It's gonna be awful, but it's like a sacrifice that I'm willing to take in order to kind of live this lifestyle. So yeah, it's all about trade-offs. It's all about trade-offs, and I think a lot of life can be freed up once we kind of push back against this narrative that we have established in this 21st century that you can and should look for ways to optimize everything and to live everything fully, and to like do everything at the same time, to both be successful, have a lot of money, travel the world, also somehow have a good relationship, also somehow have a kids in life, also somehow have all these things at the same time. It's just not. I don't think it's really healthy to look at it that way. I think it's way more healthy to kind of understand your current position and try to drive out the essential noise to kind of derive the best opportunity that you have right now. And I'm not saying that the ultimate paths are wrong. I'm not saying that the guys who are still hustling, because I was that guy, the hustler, was kind of willing to sacrifice all his 20s for his 30s. So in 40s, you're willing to travel. But also at the same time, hey, when you're 40 and a millionaire, you're not gonna really have the health to fully enjoy traveling, right? Let's think about that as well. You're gonna be. I think as long as you're conscious of those trade-offs, I'm okay with it. As long as you're sitting there and working your 20s off, completely conscious with the fact that once those 20s ends, you're gonna have different priorities. You might actually start traveling only when you're 40s, 50s, and then your health might not be as where it is. Or on the flip side, you gotta understand that hey, if you plan on traveling when you're 50, you gotta think about health way more rigorously than the other guys, because yeah, that's going to be an asset that you can't let deteriorate while you're working. Otherwise, all your plans are going to go through schmuck. It's very interesting kind of concept. But yeah, I'm really grateful for this kind of realization, because that can allow me to be where I'm at, and we'll see how it goes from there. It's something to do with my last episode with no regrets as well, when I was talking about how to live life. No regrets. The same concept of you just being conscious of the trade-offs and making the bets on the timelines, and then removing the timelines you don't want. In my case, it was simply enabling a timeline where I never get the chance to travel and explore different countries for a longer time, somewhat leisurely, because I know for a fact that when I'm pursuing this life, it's going to be a lifetime of work. And as my career progresses, it's just going to get more and more busy, hopefully, with the things that I want to be busy about. It's going to be definitely a conscious choice. But I do believe a business is a perfect vehicle to kind of allow you to make these pivots, to allow you to make these changes, and to prioritize essentialism in your life and kind of build that life that you want. So, yeah, this was Visible Ramble. It's my second episode, so, got me some slack, but I hope it made some sense. And follow, subscribe, check out the link in the description. I might be putting some links there if I have something to show. And yeah, see you around. Really?